on this board, we're talking about 15 basic real estate concepts that every real estate professional should completely understand. I call this Real Estate 101. Let's jump right in. Concept number one, real property versus personal property. It's very important to understand the distinction between real property and personal property. Real property in general is immovable and goes with the real estate. Personal property in general is movable and goes with the person. Concept number two, the bundle of rights. They are the legal rights that come with real estate. What are the bundle of rights? They are the right of possession, the right of control, the right of exclusion, the right of enjoyment, and the right of disposition. Concept number three, real estate characteristics, the four essential elements of value. Let's use the acronym STUD. S, scarcity. T, transferability. U, utility. And D, demand. Concept number four, supply and demand. What is the concept of supply and demand? Well, it's the basic economic principle that explains the relationship between supply and demand for a product or service or property and how that interaction affects the price. Concept number five, types of ownership. One, severalty, which is sole ownership. And number two, concurrent, which is ownership with others. Concept number six, forms of co-ownership. What are the types of concurrent estates? Well, joint tenancy, right? And then joint tenancy, you have to have time, title, interest, possession, and with joint tenancy comes the right of survivorship. Now, that's different than tenancy in common, right? With tenancy in common, it's just, you have possession and there's no right of survivorship. What about tenancy by the entirety? Well, that's a special type where it's held by a husband and wife, right? And there is a right of survivorship. And then there's something called community property, but we don't really talk much about that because that community property is only in certain states. It's not in every state, right? It doesn't exist in every state. Only in certain states do you have community property. Concept number seven, estates in property. There's freehold estates and there's less than freehold estates. What are the types of freehold estates? Well, basically, what's the main characteristic of freehold estates? Well, freehold estates, you have indefinite in duration, like the time frame is indefinite, right? Indefinite in duration, and it insinuates ownership, right? And now what are the types of freehold estates? Well, there's fee simple absolute, there's fee simple defeasible, and there's life estate. What about less than freehold estates, right? What is that? Well, in less than freehold estates, you have a limited amount of time, right? And that insinuates leases. What are the types of less than freehold estates? Well, you have estate for years, you have periodic tenancy, you have estate at will, and you have estate at sufferance. Concept number 8, deed and title. What is a deed and what is title, right? So now, deed is evidence of the transfer and title is ownership, right? Concept number 9, appraisal methods. What are the appraisal methods? Well, Sales comparison approach, right? Also called the market data approach. Cost approach, which is also called the cost replacement approach. And income approach, which is also called the capitalization income approach. Concept number 10, types of depreciation. What are the types of depreciation? Well, we have economic obsolescence, right? And so, that's the loss of value due to outside causes. It's the loss of the property value, and it's due to, when I say outside causes, I mean, causes, factors that are outside of the property line, right? There's functional obsolescence, and that's like, the loss of value due to poor design, right? Poor design. And then there's physical deterioration, right? And that's just basically like the property's falling apart, right? Concept number 11, fair housing laws. Fair housing laws. Well, when we're talking about fair housing laws, here's some key things, right? The Civil Rights Act of 1866 and 1964. Also, the Fair Housing Act of 1968, right? Some of the main, the main violations of fair housing laws are steering, blockbusting, panic peddling, panic selling, and redlining. Also, another big component, right, that we talk about is the antitrust laws. Antitrust laws, right? And I mean, what's the purpose of the antitrust laws? Well, the purpose is that it's designed to promote fair competition for the benefit of the consumer, right? And what are some common antitrust law violations? Well, price fixing, also dividing territories, and also conspiracy to boycott, right? Those are some common antitrust law violations. Concept number 12, government powers. Government powers. What are the government powers? Well, let's use the acronym PEAT. PEAT. P for police power, right? And so that's like, building codes and rent control and zoning, right? Police power. So you think of it this way. This is where, the government is regulating how you are using your property, right? Police power. E, eminent domain. That's where the government actually takes your property, right? And by the way, the government can take your property through what type of process? It's the process of condemnation, right? Process of condemnation. T, taxation, and E, escheat, right? So 4 government powers, right? Police power, eminent domain, taxation, and escheat, right? Escheat. What is escheat? Escheat is basically where a property owner dies without a will, right? And so the government takes the property because, the property owner did not identify any type of heir, right? Concept number 13, types of deeds. Types of deeds. What are some types of deeds? Well, you have quitclaim deed, right? You have general warranty deed. You have grant deed. You have bargain and sale deed. You have deed of trust and mortgage deed. Concept number 14, fiduciary duties. Fiduciary duties. Fiduciary duties of the agents. Let's use the acronym OLD CAR, right? O, obedience. L, loyalty. D, disclosure. C, confidentiality. A, accounting. and R, reasonable care. And concept number 15, physical characteristics of real estate. What are the 3 physical characteristics of real estate? Well, immobility, meaning, it can't be moved, right? Immobility, indestructibility, and uniqueness.